Hello everyone, my name is Ben, this is Ben the Penman, and today we're going to be finishing up a little bit of a trilogy on this channel. You see, over the past month, I've been working on a submission to the Supercell Make Clash of Clans Halloween scenery campaign, and this video we're finally going to finish everything up. Over the past few videos, I've been working on making assets and making plans so that I can take everything and put it together in Krita. And here you can see me working on that. This video isn't going to go exactly as planned because as I was making things, I kept finding things that I needed to make in Blender and things that I needed to fix in Blender and do other things and find assets from the actual game, Clash of Clans. And so this video is going to be all over the place. But here you can see I'm just working on it, trying to take what we had in the last video and make it look like it has sand and grass so that it looks like an actual riverbank. The biggest thing that I need to deal with when I'm adding all of these 3D assets into the 2D painted scenes in Krita is I need to make them look like they're supposed to actually be there. So as I go putting things in, you'll notice I'll be editing the grass textures around them, and I'll also be editing their own textures to make it look like they actually belong in the scene and they're not just 3D blocks that I plopped in. As you can see, this bridge, for instance, doesn't look all that interesting when it's just a bunch of blocks, but once I put some texture into it, it looks like a weathered old bridge. I also have to add shadows of the things that I added in later, so that it looks like they actually belong in the scene, such as this boat or the pier. Here I'm back in Blender trying to make something that I hadn't planned on before. You see, while I was doing the planning and looking at my ideas while preparing to make this all in Krita, I realized that I needed a few more things, and one of the things I decided to add was a skeleton shark sea monster looking thing. And so basically what I did is I just went into Blender and I started fiddling around with this, trying to model sort of a skeleton shark head. Those of you who are familiar with 3D modeling probably know that if you go in without a plan, chances are it's not going to turn out very well. And so in a little bit you're going to see me kind of decide that I need to have something to work with, and I'm going to come back with a sketch that I made just on a piece of paper, and I'm going to use that to help me finish this shark. Alright, now that I'm done struggling to try and figure out how to add a background image, which is something I haven't done in a while on Blender since it's been a while since I've used it a bunch. If you're wondering exactly what I'm struggling with, the problem was I was in the modeling mode instead of the layout mode when I tried to add it, and you can't just add an image to a mesh if you were curious. But here we are, we're actually looking at the sketch now, and as you can see, I can use this sketch as a way to line up the 3D model so that it has more interesting shapes and it just looks a little bit better. It's also going to help me model the lower jaw, which I was having some trouble figuring out the shape for. But now that I'm in here, I can make that jaw look a little bit better. And then I can separate it, and then the mirror will just make the whole thing look like it's a whole skull. I also have various other bits and bobs that I'm modeling here, like these vertebrae pieces, and little horns, and ribs, and just random attachments of bone that I'm going to add into the final piece. But I decided to model them separately, and then put them all together at the end, kind of like one of those little wooden build an animal puzzles. I don't know if you guys ever use those, you see them at craft stores sometimes. But that's kind of what I'm going for right here. One of the most frustrating parts of using this method, where you just make a 2D shape and you try and make it 3D, is when you want to have ragged or crooked things. That means you have to go in and edit every single vertex. So this is going to take a little while for the tail here, but in the end it's going to be worth it. Alright, now I'm finally assembling it. You need to take the different vertebrae and turn them into a spine, and then I can duplicate those ribs and also those little spikes, and that was the part where I started deleting things that I didn't need. At this point I pretty much have it where I want it to be, but once I have it laid down, I'm going to start moving around the ribs and stuff so it doesn't look so symmetrical. And then I'm just going to turn it to orthographic mode, make it so the background is transparent so it's easy to just put onto Krita, and that's going to be it. But before I'm done, I do want it to look like it has a little anchor in its mouth, like someone caught it while they were fishing. So I'm going to model a little anchor here really quick. Not the best anchor I've ever made, but it'll get the job done. Alright, now I've replaced the old skeleton I tried to draw in and then realized that it wasn't going to look good, and I've replaced it with the other one, and I've done some work on it, just painting over it, trying to make it look textured. You can debate whether or not I succeeded in making it look super textured, or if I just made it look like I painted it in again, but in the end I think it's a little better than the other one, and I'm just going to work with it. Here I'm adding in a little fence. I also made these fences in Blender, and then I just put them together to make it look like a little area. That was originally going to be a graveyard, but I put some other things in there too. Now after that, we're going to start adding in the little fishermen. This is a river of the dead, so I decided to make them all skeletal. but instead of just making them skeletons with fishing outfits, I realized that there's actually a fisherman in the Clash universe, in Clash Royale specifically, and so I decided to make a little skeletal version of him, and the lore here is that he pulled in the giant skeleton creature. Next up, we got a more traditional looking skeleton guy with red overalls. I do have to warn you though, sometime off camera I totally changed what this guy looks like without realizing that I wasn't rolling the recording, so you'll have to excuse me if you look at it a little bit later and you realize he looks entirely different. And here, this is a little guy on the island who's also just fishing. This is a fisherman on the River of the Dead, which is why they're all skeletons. But yeah, and there's the actual final version of the little red guy. Here I'm just using these white lines to kind of represent the waves. I'm trying to make this water look really ethereal, since it's supposedly like a river of the dead, kind of like the river Styx in Greek mythology. So that's why I'm also using the white airbrush to kind of make it look a little bit more glowy and mystical. Also, this is a river of the dead, so we've got to have some dead spirits floating around in it. Spirits of the dead kind of look like little white tadpoles, but they're kind of cute. And you may have noticed that I just changed out the fish I worked so much time on for another one. I am going to use the shark model elsewhere, but I was showing it to some family members and they suggested trying to put something a little bigger there so the whole thing doesn't look so flat. So I decided, well, why don't I just make the shark skeleton sea monster thing a bit bigger? And so now I need to add a little bit more texture to this one too, but I think it turns out looking really, really nice with the giant sea monster. And yes, the lore is still that the fisherman pulled that guy in on an anchor. Here I decided that what could be more threatening in the Clash of Clans world than to have the crown of a super witch. So I decided to put that at the opening of a little cave here. I don't have any explanation for what's in this cave, but it's something very magical. I decided to repurpose the old spooky tree ornament, that's not the right word, decoration that goes around in the bases from a past Halloween. I tried to make it bigger and that made it blurry, so I tried to add some more detail. It looks really painted on now, but I mean, that's okay. I also put another little one under the water. I don't know how that would make any sense to have a plant, or a dried, withered plant growing underwater, but we're not going to talk about that. I also made these little jack-o'-lantern rocks. This one I'm trying to style to make it look like it's an actual jack-o'-lantern. It kinda does. And here I'm back in Blender. So basically I was showing it off to some of my family members, and this time they said that basically everything was the same color, which is true. It's basically all just a different shade of green, or gray. So I decided to throw in some different color. I would make some pumpkins, like orange pumpkins, and I would also take some red flowers, which I named blood lilies because it's Halloween, so I had to make it Halloween. And then I just took some renders of them, and I'm going to put these all over to kind of add some extra splotches of different color. Also, you'll notice that I stole these jack-o'-lanterns from a pumpkin barbarian head from another past update. Also, I've decided to add some more color, that I would change a lot of the magical glows from a green color, which kind of matches everything else, to a pink color, which is more contrasty. As you can see, I started putting some kind of greeny yellow, more yellow than green, color around the tips of these blood lilies, and that's just because I think it makes them look more like a plant, and it kind of makes them fit into the scene a little bit better. That was just something I liked the look of. But I'm going to spend pretty much the rest of this video just putting these flowers all around, and it's going to take a while because I'm not very organized in Krita, and so I had to move around a lot of layers and stuff. But in the end, I think it was worth it. They really do add a bit more color and variety to the whole scene. And, yeah. The lore behind the blood lilies, as I call them, is just that they grow near places of death. I don't know, they kind of represent blood or something. I guess I don't really have any lore. But they're meant to be Halloweeny, kind of, sort of. Is that a good explanation? If you can't tell, I did all of this today in a hurry, trying to get everything finished before the deadline tonight. And finally, we get to the part where I try and make everything look like it actually belongs in the scene by putting little grass in front of it. It's a really good thing that Krita has this little grass brush, otherwise this would have been a lot more difficult than it needed to be. The good news is, it actually ends up looking pretty good in my opinion, and you can use it to make shadows, and you can use it to put the grass in front of things, make it look like they're actually sitting somewhere in the scene. Then all I need to do is make some shadows in the sand, and that should be it for this one. Anyway, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next time. Alright guys, so this is a little disappointing, but to be frank with you, I messed up. So as you can see here, the submissions are closed for the Haunted Village. I was actually in the middle of submitting mine. I left because I wanted to get this YouTube video up before I did the submission. I came back, I clicked the submit button, and it told me that the submission was closed. Turns out I wasn't paying attention to time zones, and the submission deadline closed, and I didn't realize it was closed. I already had it done, ready to submit. I just wanted to put the YouTube link in, and so if you do come here to see if you can vote for mine, it's not gonna be there. It's I missed the deadline, so that's really disappointing. But there's not really anything I can do about it. I'll still post this video. If you did like it, just feel free to like the video, check out the channel. I worked really hard on it, so I hope you at least enjoy the video. But that's all I have for today, and well, I hope you have a better weekend than I'm having right now, and we'll see you next time.